Welcome to the channel. My name is Reni. I'm just a pagan from the beautiful country of Holland, and I thank you for clicking on this thumbnail, because the title might seem a bit crazy and ludicrous. The title is Loki is a healer. But we know Loki as the god of mischief, the eternal trickster god, lord of chaos and god of all the outcasts. That's how we know him of. How can he also be a healer? Well, let me explain. Because in Nordic and Germanic mythology, characters are always very multidimensional. In like Christianity, the Bible, it's very clear cut, good guys and bad guys. Basically the plot of most Hollywood movies. It's very simple. But Loki has a lot of different aspects. Just like Odin, for instance. The god Odin is the god of wisdom, but he's also associated with magic. He's also associated with travel. He's also associated with war. He's also associated with death. It's a very multidimensional character, Odin. And I believe Loki is also a multidimensional character. So by making this video, I'm not saying that Loki isn't the god of chaos or the eternal trickster. He is, but there's also an aspect of him that heals. Let me see if I can try to explain that. I called him the god of outcasts because of a lot of the people that follow Loki, a lot of people that pray to him, that offer to him, are outcasts themselves. Because Loki is, part of this pantheon of gods, but even though he's part of it, he's not really part of it. The gods tolerate him because he, the benefits outweigh all the bullshit he brings in the end. So that's why they tolerate him, but they don't often really love him. In the end, he kills Balder, and in that story they end up torturing him because he did something really bad. So he's kind of an outcast. So in my experience, the people that like Loki, and maybe even you who clicked on this video, feel like an outcast. So let's just look at the archetype of the outcast. Let's look at the archetype of the black sheep, which might be you if you're watching this video. Black sheeps of the family are usually the ones who don't want to go along with the order of how things are going up until now. So they want to break free. There's a lot of anger. The family gonna call them a black sheep, and they're gonna get into a conflict, and it's gonna get really messy, and so part of that. But in essence, a black sheep sees what is wrong with the family and with the bloodline and with that group of people, and because he sees it, he or she doesn't want to be a part of it. And it's often the black sheep that ends up healing the bloodline. Now usually this takes a long time because when it starts off, there's just a lot of conflict, there's a lot of anger, a lot of headbutting, maybe even some fighting, and then the black sheep moves away from the herd, from the family, from the group, and then after all the anger settles, after a couple of years and after some introspection, and then that member of the family decides, I can and I will do it differently. I'm going to break with a certain habit, with a certain curse, with a certain tradition, and I'm going to do things differently. So the black sheep end up healing the family. So that's one thing. Well, if his followers are like that, maybe Loki's also a bit like that. But if you think about a healing, that sounds kind of new agey. Healing, but what is it to heal? Well, there's a word in there in healing, and that word is to make whole. And in the stories, the Germanic stories, the Nordic stories, Loki gifts amazing things to the gods. He gives Thor his hammer, Odin his horse, and Freya his ship. And we usually think of that like, oh, you have the gods here, you have Loki there, and then he gives them something. But then you have to ask the question, What is Thor without his hammer, and what is Freya without his ship? Well, he's still Freya and he's still Thor, but in giving that gift, did he not make the gods whole? Did he not give them something which is so essential to their being that it just connected and became part of who they were? Just like a good archer, his bow is a part of his body and his whole soul and his whole being. Isn't Thor's hammer part of his whole soul and his whole being? Did Loki make Thor whole by giving him the hammer? Was that the healing that he brought? I think you can make a good argument for that. And in a certain way, chaos can be healing. In my own life, you know, when things are going well, things are going steady, you know, just going steady, steady, steady. And then it's like, oh yeah, it's nice. But then I look at my notebook for new ideas for YouTube videos, and it's almost empty. I go, oh, what am I gonna do a video about now? But then something happens in my life which kind of uproots the balance. And then suddenly my mind starts running like Usain Bolt. And then the ideas come running in, and then suddenly I have 10 ideas for videos, just like this one. And then I realized that this chaos too was a blessing. Now, I'm gonna tell you something right now. And I'm gonna tell you something that you know when you hear it, that it's true. Even better than that, I think when you hear it, you know that somehow you don't even know it, but you've already heard it. But you don't even know that you've heard it until I've said it. Does that make any sense? Any sense? It's a saying about what a healer is. A good healer comforts those who are disturbed and disturbs those who are comfortable. And we all have been comfortable for far too long. Hail Loki.